Hello, PC Gamer readers. I'm Morgan Park, and I'm here with Wes Fenlon to talk about Halo Infinite's campaign. Exciting stuff.
Hello, yeah. I feel like Morgan, it was just moments ago that we were talking about Halo Infinite's multiplayer. Here we are to talk about the single player. I've finally gotten to play this game beyond the multiplayer tech tests, beyond the surprise multiplayer drop. I have played as the Master Chief, and I'm on a new Halo ring full of hexagonal spires. I think they're hexagonal. The
Oh,
big
hexagons.
yeah,
Cool.
those big rocks, they look pretty cool. So yeah, I've been shooting the Covenant, and I am very excited to talk about it.
Okay, so this takes place on a Halo.
It is on a Halo, although you do start on a ship before you get to the Halo ring. They kind of went back to the classic, Halo 1 design where you start out on the Pillar of Autumn, and this is similar to that. This is not a direct sequel to Halo 5. Like, it is not a uh, you're not buddies with that group of other Spartans that were in Halo 5, or at least not at the beginning of this game. From what I've played of it, it is not trying to directly continue from that story. It is trying to give you a clean break, give you Master Chief again, get you back on a Halo ring. At some point, I assume saving the galaxy, but at least in the near term, you're kind of trying to recover from the UNSC getting its ass kicked, basically, and having a bunch of kind of marooned Marines stuck around the Halo ring.
Cool. And you played the first four levels. You have a pretty, or first four missions.
First four
And you have a
missions, yeah.
right, and
And
you have a pretty clear picture of what you can talk about. First being that these are missions in an open world, basically.
yeah, so going into the game, I was really curious and sort of confused what this would mean, because a typical Halo mission is you get from beginning of the level to end of the level, and sometimes you are going through a very linear stage to do that, and sometimes it's a bit more open-ended. Some of the great levels like um, Savo Highway in Halo 3, the Covenant in Halo 3, of course, Silent Cartographer in the first game, you kind of had some freedom in like the order in which you did things, or kind of how you solved that problem. But they were still, for the most part, linear levels. This one, after you get through kind of the initial mission or two, you kind of break out onto the Halo ring, and then you get a bunch of, I guess you could say, kind of Far Cry or Assassin's Creed style kind of stuff on your map, and you can kind of choose: do I want to go over here and rescue some Marines who have been taken captive by the banished, which is like the segment of the Covenant you're fighting, or do I want to go rescue or like liberate this forward operating base, which is kind of just a little mini military installation that the Covenant have taken over, and you can then kill a bunch of them, and then that's kind of like a spawn point, a safe zone for you to go and like spawn a warthog and load up a couple Marines to drive around the base. You'll find some smaller little things here and there, like the Spartan cores are like upgrades for Master Chief's armor. So you'll get a few of the
Permanent.
yeah, permanent upgrades. So you'll find at various points some of the tools from the multiplayer mode, like the grappling hook, is in the campaign, obviously. And to upgrade those, you have to find these Spartan cores. So they're kind of just, like ability points, basically. And so you can upgrade the grappling hook, for example, to have like an electric shock component to it, so that when you grapple onto an enemy, they get kind of tased while you're approaching them. And then there's a later upgrade for it where you kind of do like a wind-up punch as you're grappling towards them and just like smack
Sweet.
the hell out of them. So that's what you need the Spartan cores for. So you'll find those around the map.
Are they hidden, or is it just literally like old Assassin's Creed style? Here's spots on a map to go to.
It seems to be a mix of both. I think when you capture one of the forward operating bases, it will like highlight things kind of in its general area. And so there are a lot of points on your map where it will highlight, here's a Spartan core, here's like an unlockable bit of like armor gear that I think carries over to the multiplayer. Here are some Marines that need to be rescued. But I did have the experience of kind of driving or walking on the ring a few times and just sort of stumbling into something that would then pop up on the map that wasn't shown there before. So I think there's kind of a decent mix there of you can set your waypoint, go to something you know is on the map, but you'll probably along the way find a thing or two that wasn't explicitly called out for you.
And when you have to go on a mission proper, are you like hopping into a Mario painting and like loading into a different spot, or is it literally all on the
Exactly
open world?
like that, and it's really strange that they included the Peach's Castle. So one of the ones I played was it did feel a bit more like kind of a classic Halo mission in that you're in like a more contained Forerunner space, but other ones are sort of like go to this location on the map, and then you get some kind of cutscene stuff, and then you're sort of going through a building, but you could also maybe have to do some objectives that kind of live around it in the open world. So it feels like they're kind of doing a mixture there of on rails storytelling for some of the missions where, you know, this is where you're going to get cutscenes, this is where you're going to find out what's going on in the story. They're going to give you some more, you know, rigid encounters where you're not going to have the full open world arsenal at your disposal. You know, you're not going to be able to like go spawn a rocket hog and drive it into this mission and use it to like totally upend the encounter design. But then there's some parts of it where you can approach it still in that very sandboxy way. It seems so far like I don't know. I've been really enjoying it. I think it has outstripped my expectations so far in how the open world, like, it kind of feels like it just works really well for Halo in a way that I was worried about before I started playing it. But it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, it is worrisome to me, and I'm glad to hear that you like it, because like to me this started with Uncharted 4, had a weird, that's a linear game with a weird open world section in the middle of it. Then Gears 5 also did that. It is a game that's linear until it isn't. Like this next 2 hours is open world, and this feels like a sort of like a blown up version of that. And Halo is not the series that I think needed a open world campaign overhaul, because really good Halo missions are like, here's a Spartan-sized problem, and then here's a vehicle-sized problem. Like there's a racetrack through a canyon that just feels perfect for how a Warthog works, and it just seems like it'd be totally different trying to do those types of missions in a sandbox, you know.
Yeah, I am with you. I think I felt exactly the same before playing it, and maybe by the end of the game I will feel, you know, a little less hot on it. I don't know, but I think from what I've played, they've managed to deliver some kind of classic Halo missions where you're like, I'm going through this Forerunner structure, and you know, it all looks alien and weird, and then, you know, some enemies pop out and I fight them, with the things that I love the most in Halo, which are driving around in a Warthog, encountering groups of enemies along the way, maybe hopping out and like trying to attack them from, you know, like a fortified position in a hallway or something, you know, crouching behind something, or, you know, just going crazy and like jumping in with a rocket launcher. This is kind of just that element of Halo design on absolute crazy steroids. You know, there were a couple moments where I was playing where I was just like, this is really good Halo. Like, I drove a Warthog into an encampment, leapt out, used the grappling hook to like jump up to the roof, found a weapon cache up there, started like decimating the enemies that are already there, and then like some of their Covenant like landing craft come in, a bunch of dudes start jumping out of that and like change the dynamic of the fight because all of a sudden they have different weapons. That feels like kind of just how most of the fights in the open world go. You'll have some little smaller ones that aren't quite that, you know, dramatic, but like there were several where I was dealing with stuff happening all around me, and it felt like the way the fight was playing out was completely contingent on how I had chosen to approach it. You know, what weapons I was bringing to bear, what direction I came at it from, all of that stuff.
I also really want to make sure we get plenty of time to talk about the enemies. There's Covenant, but they're called the Banished. What is their deal? And
the Banished, I think their deal is mostly, I think narratively, they're like religious fanatics or something, or maybe that's another branch of the Covenant. I guess they're kind of all religious fanatics now that I think about
Yeah.
it. These ones are led by a real mean brute who basically kicks Master Chief's ass, and then you kind of are on your mission to recover and save everybody. And there's a bunch of other like brute chieftains, I guess, who are underneath him, and they're sort of the big bads of the Halo ring. This game has kind of a more traditional, I guess, like boss fight structure than pretty much any other Halo has. Like you'll go up against a brute at the end of a mission sometimes who's just like a dude with a supercharged overshield and a hammer or something, and like they give them names, like they have names, they talk smack at you basically, and you gotta take them down. And they didn't really design them like, they're not gimmicky fights from what I've seen so far. You know, they're still using the Halo Sandbox weapons. They're just tougher enemies than the average. But yeah, you're just fighting the Covenant. They no Prometheans from Halo 4 and Halo 5. I think they've gone on record and said that, but I certainly haven't run into any. As much as it was nice that they tried to add in a variety of that, you know, the whole other race in Halo 4, I don't think they were very fun to fight in either game.
Yeah.
And the Covenant are still fun to fight somehow. Like, it just speaks to how well designed they were initially, that I've killed 10 million grunts in my life, and like it's still just fun to shoot the grunts.
You still throw a grenade and an elite dive rolls to the left of it. And
totally, yeah. And so I've been playing on normal just to kind of get through the game quickly. I'm really excited to go back and play on heroic, because it has been pretty easy on normal. Like I don't die too often. I kind of just take a lot of risks, you know, without worrying too much about getting killed. So I think on heroic, I'll probably get to see a bit better how, you know, smart the AI is, how much it changes between normal and heroic. But it's still felt really good on normal. I just went up. The last thing I played was like attacking a little forward operating base, and one of the most fun things you can do in this game, and it's weird that such a simple thing feels so satisfying, but like picking up the energy coil things, like the explosive barrels basically, and just throwing them feels great.
I saw that in the trailer, and I was kind of amazed that Halo has just had a pick up objects button before. You can't.
I know, and it feels. I think when that first gameplay trailer came out, that people were really critical of, they showed that, and I bet to the developers that felt like kind of a big moment, because they knew how good it felt in the gameplay. But when you're just watching it, it's kind of like, ooh, you can pick up a barrel now instead of just shooting it. Like it doesn't. It when you just look at it, it does not look like a dramatic, you know, breakthrough bit of design, but it just feels so good to just pick one of those up, nail an enemy with it, and just they're freaking dead and their corpse goes flying. It feels really good.
It's like a new expression of what's always been good about Halo, which is like its physics sandbox. It has always had weighty, unique, like polished physics that just work exactly as unpredictably and predictably as you want.
And often comically, right?
Yeah, right. You've made me a lot more excited than I was for it. You know, I think the elephant in the room is that there's no dang co-op at launch. And
yeah, that is
that's coming
shame.
in like, they said that's coming like the next season last we checked. So that's at least like 6 months after it launches or something that they're in season 2.
I'm sure there are a lot of challenges, especially in online co-op, of you know, just tracking everything in this big open world, and how far apart do you let players get, and like how does that affect, you know, the parts of the world that are loaded in and active at any given time. I'm sure there's a lot there that they still have to get working right. But I hope that when the co-op does come out, that it feels, you know, as smooth as classic Halo co-op does, where it just kind of works.
Well, the Halo Infinite campaign is a $60 DLC for Halo Infinite, which is out now. And that's coming December 8th. And then nebulously later on for co-op, and also stuff like Forge and everything. So Halo Infinite is a work in progress.
Yep.
But parts of it that we get to play are really good so far.
Yeah, good signs, good start for Halo Infinite. I'm even curious, will they eventually add on to this campaign with more, chunks of map or more stuff to do around the map? Who knows? That seems possible. They've talked about this being like the platform for the next, X years of Halo. So they've got a good template from what I've seen.
Thank you for joining me, Wes. Thanks for listening, everybody. You can read more about Halo Infinite on our website. We'll have written single-player impressions, I assume. We already have multiplayer impressions up. Group P's talking about the public beta so far, and plenty more to come in the coming months. So, thank you all. Have a good day.
Thanks, Morgan.